This is where these cars become life-size models that they just happen to run and do burnouts and stuff. But this is the part that I love. Exciting stuff. I love getting presents. The frame is done, and I've made sure that I'm done with it by spraying it with Quick Mist Detailer. I'm never going to get paint to stick now, so it's looking as good as it's ever going to look. Joe got me some presents. Let me show you what they are. I told Joe that all of this work goes to waste if I don't have parts to put on it. So he went and ordered me all of the fuel lines and brake lines. You know, he also got me the clips. This bag is labeled, what does it say here? You can't read it. Fuel line clips, and this one here is brake line clips. They're all silver. There's no colors. Well, they'll look nice against a black frame, sure. But they're not colored. And that's kind of a bummer, right? So what you do when you take these cars apart, what you should be doing is you should be bagging your parts and labeling all. And here's what we've done. We've saved the front brake hose brackets that go to the frame. This is where the brake line comes in and the brake hose connects to that. Here's the rear brake line clips. And we have pictures to prove that this frame has had yellow fuel line clips. I'm sorry, rear brake line clips. This is on the driver's side of the frame. Along that frame rail, and we have pictures to show it, had yellow clips for the brake line. It's a double clip, but it's only got one line in it. Same thing here for the front brake line clips. If you can see in this video here, they are green anodized. I'm not gonna put this car together. This is the fun part. I'm not using those clips. Bare steel, bare silver. Nope. We're gonna get anodized paint. We're gonna do the thing, and we're gonna make it look to the best of our ability how it used to look. I'll bring you along for all that. This is kind of crazy stuff. Let's do a little experiment. I'm gonna fill each one of these cups with a little bit of CLR, and I'm gonna put one clip from each into each cup, and we're gonna see if we can, get some rust off and get some color to show. These are the fuel line clips. These are the front brake line clips, which I know are green. And these are the rear brake line clips, which I know are yellow. But still, we're going to see if we can, enhance that color. Man, that's really, in the camera, really looks yellow. And these are really, they don't look that bright green in person, but they look really green in the camera. We're going to dip them in CLR, and we'll check back, and we'll see what they look like. All right, boys and girls, let's get ready for a little arts and crafts time. So we bought the new brake lines and fuel lines from Inline Tube. It's the place to get them from. But for some reason, they did not come colored the way I was expecting or hoping or wanting. So here's what I did. Soaked all these Survivor lines in CLR just to see if I could get more color from what they were. And we did take pictures before we took the car apart. Let me just show you guys here quickly. There is definitely signs of olive green, army green on the backside of this fuel line clip. There you go, a little bit right there, you can see. Army green. So what I did is I went and bought some flat army green. And I painted the clips that are for the fuel line. Now these go along the right frame, passenger side. Because it's a W31, it's got two fuel lines on the passenger side. So these clips will go on there, and obviously we left them army green. Now the cool color here, these were originally anodized. This is the clip for the front brake line that goes kind of under the engine, along the back of the engine cradle there, okay? Now this line you can clearly see here was a green kind of anodized color. Now I know for some of the BMX projects and stuff we've done, I've been able to buy anodized paint. Couldn't find it in green today, but what I did find is this extreme lacquer model paint. And the trick with this, I guess, is that you put it on real light. You put it on real light so it doesn't cover really well, and it kind of gives that anodized look. And I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty happy with how they came out. Now these are the clips for the rear brake line that go along the driver's side. This is the rear feed line, okay? These clips, there's no denying that these clips are all yellow. So I bought the closest yellow I could get in kind of a flat, or satin, I guess this was, you know, without going and getting like Caterpillar or John Deere yellow. So this is definitely a little bit brighter yellow. But then again, this is also pretty tainted from years of rust and dirt and stuff. So there's a selection of, I guess what, 3, 6, 9, 9 clips that have now been painted, which of course I will scratch, putting them in and putting the brake lines in and the fuel lines in and whatever. But that's gonna make me happy during assembly. This is the you know, conveniently tester's model. This is where these cars become life-size models that they just happen to run and do burnouts and stuff. But this is the part that I love. Once you have clean parts, I joke all the time, man, you can come down here in your pajamas and put stuff together. If you've done your job and you cleaned your parts, there's nothing dirty. So we're gonna let these dry, and it's gonna really start making this frame pop once we start putting brand new lines with clips and all the jewelry, all the bling on here. Kind of get bedazzling. But I think Joe will be happy with this because we didn't really want to go with just bare metal clips. Some of these clips that go on the rear portion of the frame here, you know, that hold the fuel lines and the brake lines in, these were always bare metal. So we're going to coat these with like you know, rust inhibiting spray. I want to keep them natural looking. And some of the other clips were really just, I think they were bare metal in the back, but these definitely were not. So happy stuff. I'll let it dry, and it'll be exciting to see some of this stuff go together for sure. Lots going on today, trying to keep focus of the real world and, you know, play world. This is certainly play world. And I'm not going to fool anybody into thinking that I don't appreciate and understand that everything I do here is playland. And I love it, but I don't take it for granted. And that's enough of that. What I am doing today is I'm starting to put on fancy parts. And the fancy parts are, let me see if you can look past my big belly here. We're starting to put on clips. That's the first piece of decoration that's going on the frame here. We're gonna do the fuel line clips on the passenger side of the frame. And then we're gonna do the brake line clips on the driver's side. See if we can't straighten out some of these brake lines that came in a box like that. You know, I don't wanna go scratching stuff up, and thankfully I have a car that is a W31 that I can compare clip positions to, make sure that I have it the way I recall it and we recorded it. You know, these clips have a basically like a push in. Can you see that? Believe me when I tell you, man, oh man, I don't know how this does this, but there it is. They have like a little spring detent that has to go in the frame and snap in. You know, you can't just put them in with your thumbs. So here's what I've done. Just take a vacuum cap and put it on the end of a punch. And when you put the vacuum cap in there, and you can hit it with your favorite ball peen. I'm saying hit it, just tap it, tappy, tappy. Don't go crazy here. You can get that pin to snap in place, and you haven't scratched the hell out of your clip and, you know, slip off and risk hitting your frame that you've worked so hard making purdy. So vacuum cap on a punch. I might even go with a smaller cap on a smaller punch, because once they snap in, the clip kind of closes up a little bit and it, jams on the end of the. See that right there? It jams on the end of the vacuum cap. So let's try a smaller cap on a smaller punch and follow suit here. Yeah, I think the one on the left is the one I'm going to go with. We'll keep this one around handy, but the one here on my left I think is going to work out a little bit better. All right, there's a little bit of color, huh? Nice brake line on the driver's side. Brake line clips, rather. And the fuel line clips. Now, we do have photographs of this before and after when the clips were still there, which I sent to Joe. Hopefully he'll insert them when it comes time to do this video. But here we are with a nice shiny black frame with some jewelry on it. Now we're going to start playing with fuel lines and the brake line. And we'll put the brackets on in the back here. Once I get the brake line straightened out, maybe I'll set the tripod up. All right, so I have the brake line straightened out. And what I do with bare metal stuff, we did not opt for stainless steel. John didn't do that on his El Camino either. Obviously, when I did the rear brake lines, I say obviously because I'm a little bit of a baby when it comes to my car. When I did the rear brake lines along the rear axle, I did do stainless steel. But my car has the original brake lines still and fuel lines. This gives the more original look. And what I do is I kind of spray them down with PB Blaster, and then maybe when it's all done, we'll do fluid film. But here I am laying the brake line in how it wants to lay. It's got to go in the hole in the rear frame where it connects to the rear brake hose that goes to the axle. It's going to go over the control arm bracket there, and it's going to lay in these clips. And I'm just going to compare everything to how it was originally in the car before I go snapping it in for good. But we're starting to get the idea that this car is actually going to be going together with respect to all new functional stuff. It might look like we're cutting corners on the body, but when it comes to mechanical stuff, I don't cut corners. It's kind of got to be right, Always better to double check and triple check, right? Let me just confirm that I have everything the way I want before I go snapping it in. Nothing bothers me more than when it's all together and then you realize something's just not right. And then you got to start popping things apart and scratching things. So let's just take a minute, pause, confirm with some pictures, and this way we know we're doing it right the first time. I'm happy. I have the clips everywhere they want. I compared them to my car. So we're going to just snap the lines in place. You want to have some spring over here in the bracket. That's how it was originally. And, you can slide it a little bit once it's in. This is kind of non-negotiable because you can only go in kind of one spot, and then it's going to wrap around to the proportioning valve. Oh, gosh, Steve-O. You can slide it in and around a little bit. I don't have the proportioning valve ready to go, but we know it's going to be on that straightaway, and it goes on the bottom. These lines go on the bottom of the clip. Something like this. And then, without scratching my frame, something like this on the bottom. Okay, that's about all we can do right now until we get the proportioning valve ready to go. This is going to have to get walked in a little bit like that because the proportioning valve bolts there, so, or distribution block in this case. Okay, that's cool. Happy. We have a bracket that goes on the top here. These wonderful brackets, or the fuel line in this case. Okay, we'll do everything kind of hand tight. And we have one more clip that goes here on the back of that crossbar between the frame rails. And I'll get that right now. This is a bare metal one. So there's a hole over here. That's not that you don't want to use the one that's single. You want to use the one that's double because you have a prong here. So we're gonna take, the clamp has got to go around the spring of the brake line without scratching things. Got to be. I'm gonna put that clamp where it's got to be in that big hole of the frame. I'm gonna take our bolt, which also has been soaking in the juice, and we'll tighten that up. So something, we're not sending anything home. We're just putting everything kind of where it's gonna be for the time being. You know, I'm not gonna worry about straightening this part out because once I have the distribution block, which is not yet done, I don't like how that lays, but we'll give everything a final adjustment once that piece is in there. I'll get that soaking in some rust inhibiting stuff for later. But there's a good look. We got some parts going in. All right, I have the fuel lines straightened out and I have them rubbed down with PB. And the clips all laid out on the bench, what I'm going to use, and obviously the clips are in the frame. What I am going to do, because there's two lines here, right? This is a W31, so it's got a return fuel line, and cars with air conditioning would also have that. So conveniently, all the Oldsmobiles here on the property they're all Lansing built, by the way, but they're either W cars. Alyssa's convertible has air conditioning, so it's got two fuel lines. The Rally 350 outside has air conditioning, two fuel lines. And the W31s, two fuel lines. So I don't have an Oldsmobile with a single fuel line. I guess that's more common though. But in any case, more common, not more common. Certainly more common to have two fuel lines here at my place. So I'm going to put you on time lapse is what I'm saying. And you don't have to watch me go back and forth to the manual, to pictures, because there's two lines, there's some clips. Sometimes the lines are on top of each other. Sometimes they're next to each other. So I just want to get that all laid out. And you don't need to watch all that in real time, but we'll have you watch that in time-lapse time. There are the fuel lines run, and they look pretty good right here. When they get to the back, things get a little jumbled. And, you know, these are great fuel lines. But are they exactly like the originals? I'm not sure, you know. I mean, there's a little bit of conflicting positions here, but we're not going to go too crazy with it right now until I get the rest of the front of the fuel lines in. You know, obviously, clips tell you where the fuel lines lay, and then this one wants to lay kind of on top of that one. You know, the return line. I'm going to play around with this a little bit more. I'm obviously not thrilled with how this is. According to the assembly manual, one can clearly see that the fuel lines, if I get my fat finger out of the way here, see the fuel lines go over the rear spring box. And you can see how they have the 3/8 line on the inside. So all that is good. Yeah, I mean, we're doing our job, folks. We're doing our job, but I think I think it's going to be fine, but I just, we'll play around with that a little bit. So now all I can do is mock up that front brake line that goes underneath the engine cradle. That'll have those green anodized clips. Then I have to start prepping parts. I got to start sandblasting the hose brackets. I got to get the distribution block. If I can save it, save it. If I can't, get a new one coming. And then I think we're going to be ready to start talking to Joe about getting a fuel tank, so maybe we can, and some body bushings, so we can get that body back over here. But there's a lot of little things I can do. I'm going to get the cross member back in. That's going to be bare metal. So exciting stuff, jewelry. I love it. I think it's cool. Let's get that front brake line on there. This is how the front brake line lays underneath the engine. Now, the clips that they send have those pins that go in the larger hole and then another hole for the bolt. I'll show you this clip here. This is the clips that they send. Okay. They'll work. They'll work just fine. Here's the deal. This is similar to what came out of the car. These are the 3 clips that came out of the car. And there was no clip over here on this part of the frame. What we had was one of those clips here, right? So on either side of the oil pan, basically, and then up top here. That front brake line was held in with 3 clips, and these are the surviving clips. And I'm going to use them. I'm not going to use the ones that are brand new and look much more anodized. I'm going to use the ones that came on the car and have the original 3/16 and Anchor logo on the back of them. These actually say 3/16 INL inline on the front of them. So for what it's worth, I guess in that case, yeah, see, because these broke, I could have only used one of them. But for what it's worth, we can say that the front brake line will be held in with the original brake line clips. So let me go back to what I was doing here. Brake line's in place. Here are the original brake line clips that I have chosen to use. The new bolts I am going to use because they're just much prettier. And I'm going to pick the best looking one for the one up here because you'll see it. And eeny, meeny, miny, mo, you guys will never know. I'm going to use this one. Okay, and this one's going to go right here. Got to kind of open them up a little bit to get them around the brake line. Okay, we're not going to bolt anything in yet. Okay, and the bolt hole is in the bottom. They would sometimes have that big pin in there that would go in that other hole in the frame, but again, Joe will have to put the pictures in the video to prove to you guys that this is how the car came apart. So, like is often said, when in doubt, put it the way you found it. Because that is the real deal. So that's that. Okay. And that's really all we can do right now until my nut driver here. Until I start. Oh, I can't do that one there. Until I start getting some other parts ready to go. So now pressure's on me. Because the distribution block goes there. I have brackets that go here that receive the brake hoses. The other fuel lines, the 2 fuel lines, come through the frame. Maybe I could stick these in and show you guys how they go. Right? Because they're going to go, they stick through here. I'm not ready to do this yet because I want to coat these. They stick through the frame and they come out this hole. And then they correspond with some rubber fuel hoses. Well, there we have it. We have brake lines on here. This is cool stuff, man. This is cool stuff. I'm not convinced I'm not going to trim these fuel lines in the back here because there's supposed to be rubber hoses. There will be rubber hoses in here. And this is just two overlapping each other. So we're going to play with that a bit. We'll compare it to my car. But again, this is about all I can do right now until I start getting other parts ready to go. I can, you know, I don't even have brake hoses here yet. But that's a cool little morning. That's cool, you know. I've often said the safest place for these parts is where they go. So this is where they go. This brake line, I might be able to do something with. This is the one that goes over to the driver's side. But this comes off the distribution block and then to that bracket. So there's no bracket on the top to hold that in place. So I really can't do anything with that. All right, I'm gonna send this off to Joe. He's gonna be excited to see that I'm making some progress, not shirking my responsibilities at all.